All right, picture this. You're on the 40th floor of a skyscraper, looking out over a city that looks like a giant glowing circuit board. And inside this glass conference room, there's a huge pitch going down. You've got this one person, let's call them the supplier, pacing, sleeves rolled up, frantically sketching diagrams on the glass walls, marker all over their hands. And sitting across the table, perfectly still, is the buyer, just watching, waiting. The whole future of a company, maybe even an entire industry, is hanging on this one meeting. And it all comes down to one big idea.
And that big idea, the thing that has one person pacing and the other just staring them down, it's called economic upgrading. And it's what this whole explainer is about. The economist Gary Gareffi put it best. It's all about how you move from doing the cheap, easy stuff to doing the valuable, more profitable work in a world where everything, your phone, your clothes, is made everywhere, all at once. So our supplier kicks things off, the markers squeaking on the glass. They're saying, look, the old way of doing things is dead. We're not just trading finished products anymore. Today's economy is all broken up. It's what you'd call a trade in tasks. That phone in your pocket, it wasn't just made in one country. It was assembled from pieces and skills from all over the planet.
And this massive global assembly line has a name. The Global Value Chain, or GVC for short. I mean, think about it. The GVC is that whole journey, from the first design sketch in Silicon Valley to the parts made in Asia to the final sale in a store near you. It's dozens of steps across dozens of companies and countries. And the supplier points to their diagram and says, right now, we're just one tiny link in that chain. We do the stitching, the assembly, the least profitable part of the whole deal. And that right there is the heart of the problem. The supplier taps the glass. We are caught, they say, in the low-value added trap. This is where you're stuck doing the low-skill, low-profit work. You're totally at the mercy of these huge multinational buyers who call all the shots. You're just a replaceable cog in their giant machine, and you're not seeing any of the real profit.
But then they take a breath. The whole energy in the room just shifts. It goes from frantic to really, really focused. The answer, they say, isn't to just work harder or cut our prices. That's just a race to the bottom. The real answer is to completely change the game we're playing. And right in the middle of the wall, they write one word, in huge letters, upgrading. That's it. That's the whole pitch. This is the strategy to finally capture more value. It's how you go from being just another supplier to being a real strategic partner. It's the only way to get security, to get profitability, to learn new skills.
Okay, so how do you actually do it? Well, it's not some kind of magic trick. There's a playbook for this. The supplier starts sketching again, laying out the specific moves, the actual steps a company can take to start climbing that value ladder. And here they are, the 4 main paths. Seriously, think of it like you're leveling up in a video game. First, there's process upgrading. That's where you just get way better at what you're already doing. New tech, smarter organization, you get the idea. Then you've got product upgrading. This is where you stop making the basic stuff and start producing the more advanced, higher value products. Now, the third one, functional upgrading, this is like a boss level. You're not just making the product anymore, you're getting into design, marketing, branding. And finally, there's chain upgrading. That's when you take all your new skills and jump into a totally new, more profitable industry. But here's the secret sauce, right? It turns out it's not just about what you do inside your own company. Success is really a dance between two partners. You absolutely need that internal drive to learn and innovate, your strategic learning capability. But you also need the right kind of buyer, one you can build a real long-term relationship with. That's the only way to navigate the power imbalance that, let's be honest, is always going to be there. And just like that, the buyer speaks for the very first time. Their voice is completely calm. They spin a pen on that shiny black table. It's a nice story, they say, but, it's not nearly that simple. And with that, bam, the reality check begins. The buyer points out that this whole thing isn't a one-way street up. For every company that successfully upgrades, there's another one that experiences downgrading. You can get trapped, you can get pushed back into doing even lower value work, or you could get kicked out of the supply chain completely. The risk is very, very real. Then the buyer pulls up a chart on their screen, and the numbers are just stark. So, they say, what are the actual odds of this working? Well, it turns out just being part of a global value chain is no guarantee of success. In fact, one major study found that only about a quarter of firms actually succeeded in upgrading. Think about that. That means 75% either stayed stuck or actually went backwards. The odds are not great. So that brings us to the most important question of all. Why isn't this automatic? If the path is supposedly so clear, why do so few companies actually make it? The buyer kind of leans back, just letting that question hang in the air, because, well, the game is often rigged. The hurdles are just huge. I mean, the buyers themselves have so much power that they can decide who gets to upgrade and who doesn't. They can have all these restrictive rules that keep you in your little box. Then you have gatekeepers, like giant supermarket chains, that demand so much from you that small suppliers just can't keep up. The rewards are rarely shared equally, and there's always that risk of just being stuck doing the low-tech grunt work while all the real money goes somewhere else.
As they're talking, the light outside is changing, you know? It's shifting from that harsh office fluorescent to this warm, golden hour glow. And the supplier leans forward, right across the table, to make their final, most compelling case. They admit the risks are there, but they shift the focus to the enormous rewards, not just for them, but for everybody.
Look, this isn't just about our company's profits, they say. This is about structural transformation. We're talking about changing our entire economy. See, when one firm upgrades successfully, it's like a rising tide lifting all the boats around it. It creates this ripple effect. Suddenly you need better packaging, smarter logistics, more sophisticated retail. It creates better jobs, and not just in one factory, but across the entire country.
And this chart really just nails the point home. Not all upgrading is created equal. The research is pretty clear. High value-added upgrading, moving into the really complex stuff like R&D, design, and branding, that has a much, much stronger impact on a company's performance than just becoming a little more efficient. This is where the real prize is. So after this whole intense pitch, what's the big takeaway? Well, first, winning in this game is a team sport. It's about building strong partnerships, not just making good products. Second, you can't just play along. You have to have a clear strategy to actually change your position in the game. And third, governments have a really important role to play here, not just as referees, but as coaches, helping build up the skills and the infrastructure that everyone needs to compete. So the meeting ends, papers are shuffled, the deal gets done, but we're left with this one last thought. In the world we live in now, with supply chains constantly shifting, with all these new geopolitical risks rewriting the rules, is climbing this ladder still the only way to win? Or is a whole new playbook being written as we speak?